Imagine a world where reality folds in on itself, where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and where the sea and the highway both swallow secrets whole. Today, you and I are diving headfirst into two true stories from the shadowy edges of human experience, tales so strange, so haunting, that you may find yourself retelling them in hushed whispers late at night. And trust me, the second story's ending will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about fate, memory, and the darkness that sometimes creeps into the everyday. But before we set sail into these chilling mysteries, let me ask you, do you crave stories that tingle your spine, tales that unsettle your heart and spark your imagination? If so, you're exactly where you're meant to be. This channel is a lighthouse for those who thirst for the strange, the dark, and the inexplicable, all woven into immersive storytelling. We're here every week, drawing back the veil on the world's most enigmatic cases. If that excites you, do me a favor, slide into that Like Button's kitchen, raid all but the last spoonful of its ice cream, and slip the near-empty tub back in the freezer. And of course, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, so you never miss a weekly descent into the odd and the unknown. Now steel yourself. Let's journey together. Our first tale hurls us into the vastness of the Coral Sea, where in the ink-black hours of August 27th, 2000, a fisherman named Sam Watts fought to keep his footing on a slick, heaving boat. Far from the comfort of land, 56 miles off Queensland's jagged northeast coast, the world was reduced to wind, water, and the desperate glow of deck lights. Moments earlier, 6 men had dropped anchor, hoping for a routine night's work. But the sea had other plans. Out of nowhere, a tempest swept across the horizon, and with it came chaos, the kind that tests the soul and cleaves lives in two. Sam and his crewmate, Michael Edwards, braced themselves as the boat pitched violently. Sam locked eyes with Michael, a silent pact passing between them. They would secure the deck together, split their duties, and meet at the ship's center. Each man moved into the storm, fighting the elements, checking lines and knots, desperately trying to keep the ship and themselves intact. But fate waited in the shadows, biding its time. As Sam crouched to check a fastening, his line of sight to Michael was broken for only a heartbeat. In that moment, a monster wave reared up from the depths, slamming the vessel and nearly throwing Sam overboard. His hands shot out, gripping the rail just before the sea could claim him. When the world righted itself, Sam's first instinct was to look for his friend. But Michael was gone. Through driving rain and the wild shriek of wind, Sam watched in horror as Michael vanished into the churning black, swallowed by the ocean's merciless maw. Panic flared. He screamed Michael's name, but the gale tore the sound away. Sam tore below deck, rousing the crew from uneasy sleep. Within moments, every man was on the deck gripping spotlights, scanning the roiling water, faces pale with dread. The captain's voice crackled over the radio, summoning maritime police, their hope flickering like a candle in a hurricane. The search was frantic, desperate. Police boats joined the hunt, spotlights slicing through sheets of rain. Buoys were tossed into the waves, a lifeline for a friend they prayed was still alive. But as the sun climbed and the world brightened, hope ebbed away. Noon came. The search was called off. The sea, indifferent as ever, gave nothing back. The realization crashed over the crew. Michael, their friend, their brother of the sea, was gone, likely drowned. The shock was bone-chilling. Only hours before, Michael had laughed with them, shared stories, cast nets. Now he was a memory, a ghost carried away by the wind and waves. But the ocean is a brutal accountant, and life at sea is costly. These men, battered by grief, faced a merciless decision. Should they cut short their journey, return home empty-handed, and face financial ruin? Or should they stay, fishing with heavy hearts, haunted by the loss of their friend? These were not men of means. A failed voyage would mean hungry children, bills unpaid. And so, with a grim practicality only the sea can teach, they made their choice. They would fish on, clinging to the hope that the ocean might yield Michael's body, a final act of kindness for a fallen comrade. That day the nets were heavy with ketch, towering cod, 6 feet long, nearly 100 pounds each. Flowery cods, they called them. Each haul should have been a celebration, but laughter was strangled by sorrow. Every man's eyes flickered to the surface, searching for something, anything, of Michael. But the water remained mute, and after 24 hours they sailed back to port, their bounty tinged with mourning. The world moved on. The catch was sold, the men dispersed, but Michael's absence hung over them like a storm cloud. Days later, far from the sea, inside a humming fish processing plant, a worker faced one of the immense cod from that fateful voyage. Routine guided her hands as she sliced open the fish, but what spilled out was anything but ordinary. The knife revealed not just flesh but fate, a reason to scream. Inside the belly of the beast was a human head, face frozen in terror, eyes wide, mouth agape, a final, eternal scream. It was Michael. In the savage ballet of the Coral Sea, Michael had not simply vanished. When he tumbled from the deck, he had survived the fall, only to find himself in waters teeming with predators. Sharks, saltwater crocodiles, ancient jaws with no mercy. In the primal feeding frenzy, Michael was torn apart. His head, separated from his body, drifted through the blood-dark water. Hunger, blind and unfeeling, soon found it, one of the giant cods. It swallowed his head whole, fate binding predator, prey, and fisherman in a grotesque circle. And so, in an act almost mythic in its horror, Michael returned to his friends, not as a ghost, but as a secret hidden within their catch. The workers who opened that cod glimpsed into the abyss, saw the moment of terror frozen forever. A scream, a warning, a brutal reminder that the ocean never truly gives up its dead. Some say the sea has its own way of returning what's lost, but it does so on its own cruel terms. Let that story settle in your mind, let it haunt you, because sometimes the mysteries of this world are not just strange, they're monstrous. But our journey isn't over. The strangeness of the human story runs deeper still. Years before I dedicated myself to dredging up the world's darkest mysteries, I served in the military. And while my own adventures were wild, it was the stories whispered among soldiers that chilled me most. Think about it, men and women sent to the edges of the earth, isolated in deserts, jungles, ice, and sea. Out there, reality blurs. Lights appear in the sky with no explanation. Figures walk across mountaintops where no living soul should be. Stories like these form a secret lore, known only to those who have stared into the night and seen something staring back. If that stirs your curiosity, check out the Wartime Stories podcast. I've handpicked them to join our fold at Ballin Studios. Search for Wartime Stories wherever you get your podcasts. Discover the untold, the forbidden, the stories the world isn't supposed to know. But now let's return to the heartland, to another tale where fate and memory collide. July 13th, 1994. Picture a man waking, alone and battered, in a sun-scorched ditch alongside a lonely Wyoming road. The world above is endless blue. The world within is blank chaos. He blinks, tries to sit, but agony lances through his skull. His hands, trembling, search his head, a swollen lump. His wrists bear the dark signatures of restraint, bruises, angry and unexplained. Who is he? Where is he? He has no answers, only a fog of confusion and the echo of three names: Pat, Joel, Chris. Their meaning escapes him, but they haunt the empty corridors of his mind. A stranger, older, weathered, appears at the roadside, peering down. "Are you all right?" he asks. But our amnesiac can barely form words. He mumbles the only truth he has: Pat, Joel, Chris. The names hang in the air like unanswered prayers. The older man, Steve, shrugs off the oddness, introduces himself, and offers a helping hand. As Steve gathers his shopping cart, the battered man notices its contents: cans, a backpack, the tools of someone living on society's edge. A cold realization settles over him. Perhaps he too is homeless, a wanderer with no name. He searches his torn pockets, finds only 23 cents. And a comb. When Steve invites him to the local shelter, he accepts. There, asked for his name, he improvises, combining Pat, one of the names circling in his head, with the brown color of the desk in front of him. He becomes Pat Brown. That night, Pat lies in a stranger's bed, his mind swirling with questions and fear. He clings to hope. Surely, sleep will restore the past. But morning brings only the same blankness. He decides to seek answers from the authorities, hoping the police can make sense of his fractured self. At the station, Pat is met with skepticism. The officer on duty sees no missing person matching his description. To them, his story is the stuff of delusion or drugs. But Pat is calm, articulate, and lost, a puzzle whose pieces are missing. The officer notices a ring-shaped callus on Pat's finger. "Looks like you wore a wedding ring," he offers. A new possibility stirs in Pat's mind. Was he once a husband? But the police have nothing more to give. He returns to the shelter, lost in a limbo without a past. Weeks crawl by. No one comes searching. The names Pat, Joel, Chris become mantras, signposts pointing nowhere. Frustrated, Pat learns from other drifters about Jackson, Wyoming, a place where a man can start over. Without proof of identity. Hope flickers again. He sets off, hitchhiking over 400 miles, a ghost looking for a new life. In Jackson, Pat lands work at a newspaper, sorting mail and handling office tasks. Slowly, fragments of his old life drift back. His fingers fly over an adding machine, unthinking, unerring. Complex math becomes instinct. He reads about the stock market and finds he knows its dance. He feels drawn to the Catholic Church, reciting prayers by rote, the words rising from somewhere deep and forgotten. But the truest clues come at night. In his dreams, a little boy calls to him, "Dad, Mom needs your help with Chris." Another lost piece clicks into place: Joel and Chris, his sons, Pat, his wife. He builds a story from shadows: a married man, father of two, Catholic, good with numbers. But it's a story without a location, a family a way back. 3.5 years slip by. Pat lives in Jackson, Wyoming, still a man without a past, no closer to the truth. Finally, desperation drives him to action. He contacts the TV show Unsolved Mysteries, airing his plight to millions. On April 10, 1998, his episode is broadcast. In Indiana, over 1,000 miles away, a phone rings. A woman answers. It's her cousin urging her to turn on the TV. She does, and on her screen, the missing man's face shatters her world. The woman is Pat Brodnick. She stares, stunned, at her husband Carl's face, the man who vanished without a trace 4 years before. She dials the show's hotline, and the gears of fate lurch into motion. But the truth that emerges is not what anyone expects. Pat Brown is revealed as Carl Brodnick Jr., a man with a secret past. The clues he'd unearthed, his comfort with numbers, his grasp of finance, were not just memories but motives. Carl was no ordinary family man. He was a wanted man, an accountant under investigation for embezzlement, accused of stealing tens of thousands of dollars from his company. 5 days before he was found in that Wyoming ditch, Carl emptied his accounts, withdrew a mortgage, and vanished from Indiana. His car was found abandoned in Missouri, his credit card used in Colorado, but Carl himself was invisible. How did he end up broken and memoryless on that roadside? Theories swirl like autumn leaves. Some say he faked amnesia, running from justice. But why live as a drifter? Why call attention to himself by going on national TV? Others believe something darker unfolded. Perhaps Carl crossed dangerous people, tried to pay them off but fell short. The marks on his wrists, the blow to his head, the missing money, all hint at a violent encounter, a punishment gone too far. Left for dead, Carl may have survived, but his memory did not. Reunited with his stunned family, Carl faced the law. He pled guilty, but claimed his memories of the crime were gone, wiped away by trauma. The court showed mercy. Instead of a cell, he served probation, then tried to piece together the remnants of his life, forever changed by 4 lost years. So what can we take from these stories? Perhaps it's this: the world is a labyrinth, its corridors winding through both horror and redemption. The sea devours, but sometimes returns what it takes, in ways we cannot fathom. The mind can be a prison, but sometimes, if we're lucky, a single clue, a name, a dream, a stranger's kindness can unlock the door. If these stories have set your imagination ablaze, if you hunger for more glimpses into the world's strangest shadows, then you're in luck. Explore the catalog of podcasts and videos at Balance Studios, tales of medical mysteries, bedtime stories, wartime secrets, and more, all free and waiting for you. Keep seeking the strange, the dark, the mysterious. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and remember, in a world as wild as ours, the next mystery is always just around the bend. Wait. Don't wander off just yet. If you crave more stories that defy explanation, click here and plunge deeper into the unknown.